So just before Scott shares his testimony, I just met Scott last Sunday, and right down here, right after the service, is when Scott gave his life to Jesus, just last Sunday, and he's here today. So brand new to the community. But he wanted a new story about his life, so you're going to hear some of the old story and then the new story. And so, Scott, you go right ahead.
I have never had an easy life. Between having mental health problems like ADHD, Tourette syndrome, and making bad decisions, it led me to prison multiple times. Life's been pretty difficult for me. I admit making a lot of these bad decisions is self-inflicted, and I probably do deserve to suffer. Starting with my childhood, as early as 3 years old, I've always been torn between two parents that have never been able to get along with one another. For as long as I could remember. At the age of 5, my mother married the man she married, Randy Harris, had always treated me differently than his other 5 sons. I was belittled, outcasted, treated like unwelcome company anytime my mom wasn't around to defend me. This lasted until he passed away when I was roughly 16 years old, give or take. Honestly, I don't have very many memories of him ever being nice to me or praising me for anything. Needless to say, that man hated me for reasons, and I'll never know. I'll never get closure on that. At 9 years old, my mom gave me the choice to either continue living with her or live with my dad. At a young age, it was a very big and conflicting decision to make. Every visitation weekend, my dad would take me to do fun activities and treat me like I was the only thing that mattered to him. He had me convinced that living with him would be the best thing to ever happen to me. As soon as I made the decision to live with him, all of this stopped. He became controlling and progressively more and more mentally and physically abusive. He's a very narcissistic man. Finally, at the age of 15, my late stepfather, Randy, noticed that I had been acting strange and very withdrawn towards the time going back to my dad's home, my home. My mom urged him to find out what was going on with me, so he cornered me, demanded that I told him what's going on. So I told him the truth. That was probably the only time that Randy ever showed me any genuine concern as a parent. So my parents called the cops on my mom, or on my father, and I started living with my mom from that time on. Lots of death and despair, traumatic experience throughout my life has slowly changed me from an optimistic and genuinely happy person who is always laughing and having fun to somebody that is cynical, depressed, and scarred from the pain that I've carried my entire life. I've lived nearly all of my life in survival mode and currently can't even imagine allowing myself to let my guard down for even a second in fear that I'll have more suffering to go through. I do have plenty to live for. I have a 17-year-old son, a grandson, a very big, beautiful family that loves me. However, I can't seem to let go of my pain from the past, and it consumes me. In my life, I have seen plenty of things that nobody should ever see. I've been in prison more times than I can count. And worst of all, I allowed myself to succumb to some really bad addictions. I've spent the last 3 years of my life living with my addiction. The bad habit of mine has ultimately caused me to live on the streets, where I currently still do live. This addiction has forced me to lie, cheat, steal, just to feed myself and support my habits. I've become everything that I despise. And I became a shell of my former self, all for a stupid drug that I seen as relief from the pain I was suffering. I know it's only temporary relief, but it's still relief. Nonetheless, recently, I decided to try fentanyl out of curiosity. And after the amount of friends that I have lost to overdose of this evil drug, I hate it above all substances imaginable. But I had lost my grip on my self-control that I've ever had. All it took was one hit from this tiny, horrible drug, and it literally killed me. First, I lost consciousness. Next, I stopped breathing, and then my heart stopped. Narcan was administered in time, and I was brought back from death. I was legally dead for 4 minutes. When I finally woke up, I was scared, confused, and was still in a fog from the fentanyl while trying to process everything that was happening. I remember what seemed like falling asleep in somebody's garage. EMS carefully explained to me that I had overdosed and died just a minute ago. The experience has been horrifying and very traumatic for me, but it also is the wake-up call I needed to make some better choices and start getting my act together before I end up making the wrong choice that cost me my life for real, with no more coming back from it. I have chosen to open my heart and surrender myself to God, beginning my journey as a Christian because of these key experiences in my life. I'm ready to let go of all my pain, repent for allowing my life to completely fall apart. So I relinquish control to God in hopes of salvation. I seek God's forgiveness, His mercy, and His love.